Welcome to the Counterweight podcast. I am Doug Rogers, Chief Revenue Officer and Managing Partner for Waypoint Healthcare Solutions. And I'm joined weekly by my co-host, James Canary, founder and owner of the Upper Right Corner. Together, we are focused on speaking to and learning from growth leaders across the healthcare space about their journeys and lessons learned. James and I want to explore how growth leaders manage this tension, not only for their teams, but also with their leaders and in many cases, board members and investors. We will discuss with our guests the career journey they have been on, key influences that help them put them into the position they are today. We will talk about successes and challenges, what they learned from these events for themselves and for their teams. Join us each week for a new episode with our guest. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn under the name The Counterweight Podcast. Subscribe, like, follow, and give us feedback as we go along. Now on to the show. Welcome to The Counterweight. My name is Doug Rogers, and my co-host, James Canary, is on assignment. I don't really know what that means, and I don't know where he is, but he's not here. So that's okay, because we have a phenomenal guest and she's going to keep me on my toes as we go through this conversation. I am super excited to welcome Kristel Hladky to the pod, fellow Kansas Cityan. She's at a digital health company. We're going to hear all about it. She's got just some really great nuggets of wisdom. Kristel, really glad to have you here. Why don't we just start? Tell everybody who you are, what you do, where you're at, and then we'll jump right in.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug. And first, I wanted to say thank you for having me on the pod. We'll talk about this more at some point in the conversation, I'm sure, but one of my favorite parts about this industry is just the amount of excitement and creativity that people have for the work that we're doing and all of the interesting projects and ideas and conversations that are stemming from that. And it has been so energizing to listen to the podcast and hear about all of those. And so it is great to be here. Very thankful. Definitely no pressure being on after all of those conversations I've already listened to, but I'm very excited to be here. Like you said, my name is Kristel Hladky. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at SparkChange, and we are a revenue cycle healthcare technology company based, like you said, here out of Kansas City. And we leverage data and analytics to create efficiencies to improve financial outcomes for our clients. And one of the things I love about our team is we kind of have this wealth of talent that spans from operational to definitely technical. And we have figured out different ways to apply that. And, we're uniquely positioned. We're providing consulting services and support services, but we're doing those through a technology lens and really trying to figure out how we can use our technical capabilities to improve kind of those services that we are providing across the board, as well as introducing automation area that just so desperately needs it. So excited to talk more about all the things we do and more about my journey so far.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, as I said, I'm just super pumped for the conversation we're going to have. Take a moment. I do want you to share a little bit around your role, the scope of your role, what you're doing these days. But you made the comment about SparkChange, a revenue cycle company, and we talked to a lot of leaders, many of which are here in Kansas City, some of which are all across the United States. But share with our audience. From SparkChange perspective, when you say revenue cycle, what does that really mean? What are y'all focused on? And I know I'm kind of going on a little bit, but I presume you're predominantly focused on health systems. So what does that mean when you go talk to a health system? What's the area that you're really targeting?
Yep, you're exactly right. So healthcare revenue cycle, and we are really focused on the financial, the business office side of things. So I have to say it's essentially, everything that surrounds the clinical experience. And so that piece of the healthcare experience is one that many of us are familiar with, that is incredibly important, and one that inevitably you usually end up having some interaction with in your life. And probably as you get into adulthood becomes more and more prevalent is that revenue cycle piece. So the scheduling, registration of healthcare services, and then all the way through the billing both to insurance companies and then the patient billing side of things. And so we work with hospitals, physicians, vendors, really working along that continuum.
Gotcha. And for our audience, most of our audience are in the digital health space. They range from individual contributors on the sales side or the operation side, all the way to executives. But I think we can all appreciate that our typical experience with the healthcare system is when you go receive care, and you feel a lot of complexity just in that transaction, in that interaction. How do you find get to a provider in a timely manner? Do you understand what they're telling you? What's the next steps that you should do? I think what it's easy to forget is the level of complexity that happens after that. And how do you get paid? How do they get paid appropriately for the time that you spent? How do they actually get that in a timely fashion? And Kristel, not to put words in your mouth, but I think what you're saying is you make sure they get paid in the way they should get paid, is what SparkChange is doing for your respective clients.
Yes, and as easily as possible. And, really found in working with our clients is that not only is achieving the financial outcomes difficult in a lot of situations, but even when, financial outcomes maybe look pretty great, a lot of times there is still a lot of manual work that's taking place for that to happen. And it's happening in an industry that is difficult to find talent, to keep talent. And so the day-to-day operations, trying to get those claims out the door, trying to get bills to patients, accurate bills to patients, is astronomical. And so anything that we can do to help create efficiencies there is something that is so incredibly important for our clients, because unfortunately, often what we hear, it's a story of not, it's a story of too much work and not enough people to do it. And so they're trying to figure out, how they can go focus on the most value added work. And so we're trying to obviously help identify that, but then also help create some automations in areas where we can hopefully take that work away so their focus can be where it needs to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just one kudos to, I know, to the SparkChange team, to you. I know we're going to talk more about the origin story, if you will, but super excited for the work that you're all doing. The fact that you're here in Kansas City, by the way, hey, plug Kansas City. We've got some really awesome companies that are building. You are currently the Chief Operating Officer, if I understand correctly. Just guide our audience. What does that really mean? What do you do on a day-to-day basis, other than come on pods like this?
Surprisingly, that is actually a very small portion of my responsibilities. No. So yes, as Chief Operating Officer, really all things HR, legal, compliance, administrative, finance, those kind of fall under my umbrella. So I really work across different areas of our team supporting the business. And then one of the other things that I have gotten to work on, both as nature of my role, but also based on how I started with the company and kind of having the opportunity to see us grow from basement startup to where we are now, which I know we're going to talk more about, is really getting to work closely with our other leaders on our client experience and what that journey looks like, why we're here, what we're trying to do, and how we make sure that that really transpires across the continuum of the work that we are doing with our clients and the relationships that we're building. And then lastly, one of the things that I love about not just SparkChange, but just the opportunity to be part of a growing team is just there are so many different things that come up on a daily basis that we are able to be a part of because that's the nature of the work we're doing. That's the nature of our team. And so there are lots of different things I've done across the team over time. And I've always said, my main goal is to be useful and to help where I can, whether that's the business, our clients. And so continue to really love that aspect of the role as well.
Yeah, what an amazing journey, without a doubt. So guide our listeners. How many people? How big is SparkChange today?
We are about 70 people
Okay.
today, and we started out as a 4-person true basement startup
Oh,
in
wow.
the basement of one of our co-founders. And so we have 4 co-founders who started the company in May of 2019. I joined as Teammate number 5, so the first non-co-founder in December of 2019.
Were they
Still
still in the basement?
in the basement. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
So it was great. It was exciting. It was obviously an adventure like nothing I had done before. And then we had someone else who joined us not long after that. So the 6 of us were in the basement, really until March of 2020 with COVID. And at
Yeah.
that point, we did some remote work for a little bit before eventually landing in our first office space. And we grew through, I think, 3 different office spaces there, landed in a new office space this January, which we are very excited about. And over the course of that time, have seen the team grow from that group of 4 to 6 to different sizes in between there, but ultimately landing where we are now and continuing to expect to grow, which has been super exciting.
Yeah, without a doubt. I want to go back to the basement experience, which, to your point, I mean, this is the quintessential startup story. I think the only thing that is more quintessential is if it was in the garage, but I think this is kind of on the same level.
Mm-hmm.
It just guide us a little bit. You were at a much larger company, and I presume not working in a garage. Probably had a lot more people around you, if you will. What what was that transition like? And just talk to our audience a little bit. How did that decision process go in your mind? Maybe you had the conversation with your significant other, what have you, but how did that conversation go that you said, hey, this makes sense to go do this type of thing?
Yeah, so my background prior to coming to SparkChange was at Cerner, so working in support org specifically. And, support is such hard work. But one of the things that I learned being there is that people were really dedicated to identifying what these issues were that we were working through and trying to find ways to help clients. And it really gives you that front row seat in understanding what clients' pain points are. And so I started out as an analyst, so technical resource in the registration space, and then from there moved into a few different roles, but always in the revenue cycle space. And um, you know, one of the difficult things about support is that, first of all, it's so transactional. And so you get that front row seat to those issues, but you are working through them one ticket at a time.
Yeah.
And so that can be difficult when you know the level of change and of resolution that's needed to go move the meter at a larger scale. And the other piece was really seeing the very specific bounds in which, you are required, and there's a lot of reasons why that's the case in a larger organization, especially a support type organization. And so I was never the person from a technical standpoint that was going to go invent something that new that was going to fix these problems at a larger scale. But I had those people on my team, and I, saw their creativity, saw their passion, and saw the dissatisfaction or the frustration with, not being able to go tackle those issues in that way. And some of the obstacles that they came across in whether it was engaging other organizations or trying to figure out what the path looked like for that to happen. And so one of the things that really drew me to Spark Change was this idea that you can use some of those lessons learned in support to understand what our clients need and why, but you can use a technology driven approach to really address those at a different scale. And I knew from the co-founder group that these were people who were really invested in the creativity and the problem solving and the willingness to go ask the tough questions and figure out, why aren't we doing it this way? Or why can't we do it this way? And so for me, that was the driver. It was certainly an interesting decision to, move from such a defined and kind of, I don't expected setting, I guess you could say, from a career standpoint to something that was completely different and tied to a lot of uncertainty. But I was able to see a lot of the success and the response that was coming through in the months prior to my joining, that the company had been working with some of its initial clients and getting an idea of what was working and getting that excitement from people who, wanted, from clients who wanted to work with us, who were willing to trust. And so, while it was slightly terrifying, it was definitely energizing. I was ready for it. One of the other pieces that I didn't fully appreciate until I landed was just the degree to which, when you are in a startup, you are the one figuring all those things out. And when I say me, it's not me individually, but like us as a
It's you
group,
and four other people.
exactly. It's like we're tackling everything, we're learning, we are putting things together. So even as simple as like, hey, what template are we using for that? It's, oh, we need to create that. And so putting those creative skills to use and removing the layers too between, you and the client. I had worked really closely with clients in my roles prior, but there's no escalation point. There's no this org, that org, figure pointing. Not that anyone desires to go that direction by any means, but this is, you really see day to day, like you are the person who's tied to what's happening. The client is so directly tied to your success and making sure that you have what you need to be able to move forward. And that has been, I don't know that there's words to express, clients having faith in us and being willing to share their stories with us, share their pain points, and then, come to the table with the ideas, the willingness to take a different approach and, give us that feedback and see where that goes.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, and for our audience, some of you may be out there thinking about, hey, I want to go do something different, and you may be in a big co or middle co, however you describe your company, and I think as I listen to you, there's no known outcome,
Mhm.
but there sure is a lot of excitement, but there's also, you've got to have this willingness to go do things that you may not know how to go do. How you got to go create your own contracts. There's not a contracting department that's, hey, use this contract. These are the terms and conditions. You've got to go create your own template. By the way, this was pre-chat GPT. So it's not like you had the magic wizard in a box that you could go type in and say, hey, what would be the best SaaS contract that we should put together? And all of a sudden, something just pops out. So right there's a lot of things to go solve for. How did that conversation go? As you were making the transition, did you feel like it was a lot of risk that you were taking, or I know you had worked with the founders, so there was certainly a level of trust there. But I mean, did it feel like you were kind of doing that Indiana Jones, stepping off of the cliff, and you don't see the walkway until you land on the other side?
To a certain extent, but like you said, I had worked with the founders. I had heard the story of
Mm-hmm.
what they were doing, and I knew from the work that I had done before and from some of the client response that this was a need. It was something that was being well received, and that there was really an opportunity to go be part of something that was going to really create a lot of value for clients. And so, um, to
Yeah.
me, it, in retrospect, I know that there was a lot of thought and a lot of consideration, but there was probably more than anything excitement
Yeah.
and just willingness to jump in, and that's really the part that I remember the most, is just being so incredibly excited to be part of it.
That's awesome. Well, and I imagine, right, you can look back and it feels like it's only been a short 6 years,
Mhm.
because right, every day is a constant something new, something that you're tackling, et cetera. Tell us a little bit about what it was like, in those first couple of years there at SparkChange, as y'all were building out the company. And one of the things I would be interested perhaps for you to focus on is, how did y'all build a culture
Mhm.
that embodies who you are? And I would say outside looking in, I feel that there's a defined culture that Spark Change represents. I see that and how
Mhm.
you talk about it, the post, et cetera. So how did y'all go about creating that aspect in the early days of the company?
Mhm. So in terms of the early days, it was exciting, it was daunting, it was a lot of conversation, us internally talking through what we're doing, what we wanted to go do, us having the opportunity to talk with our clients and get,
Yeah.
understanding of different things that they were seeing. We were bringing data to them and, letting them know things we were noticing and potential paths we felt like we could go down, but then taking their feedback to understand what considerations we may need to have and how that would carve our path moving forward. And so that piece was always exciting and energizing. I know you said earlier, there's a lot of learning that's involved from a business standpoint. The four co-founders are all incredibly creative, curious, problem-solving, critical thinkers, and that is something that um, really, I would say, created the foundation for the culture and also created, I think, the confidence in what we were doing and that everything was going to move in a positive direction because we could go figure these things out. We could tackle, we were willing to learn, we were willing to ask questions, we were willing to adjust. And so between, their savviness and that mindset, it really was a lot more exciting than it was daunting, at least in retrospect.
Yeah.
As far as the culture goes, also, definitely owe a lot of that to the co-founders. They were incredibly deliberate in how we went about doing things. And one of the things that, you have the luxury of when you are in a basement, small group of people, it is you can take a very dedicated approach to culture. And so even before we were diving into, the logistics and the projects and the, to-dos and the roles and all of those things, it was connecting to the mission and the vision and the why, and not just for the business, but our individual whys as well. And so from that came poster sheets hanging all over the basement that had some of our core values articulated, that had some of our kind of career gotcha moments up to that point that were the fuel for what we were doing and why we wanted to go do the things that we were doing. And that's something that we really have tried to keep going in different ways as we've grown the team, is that focus on we are here for a reason. We are doing
Yeah.
things for a reason. We have excitement over what we are doing. And, that continues to be one of my very favorite things.
So I'm curious, um, in the hustle bustle, I can only imagine the frenetic pace, right? That
Mhm.
in the first year, 2 years, it probably has not even abated. But you're sitting there and you've got 1,001 things that you've got to solve for. You've got client engagements. You're building processes. You're trying to figure out, how do we do internal things? How do we engage our clients? How do we sell this? All that stuff going on. How did y'all carve out time to set your core values? I mean, I just, I love that. I love the fact that you talked about how you had these things, they were on the wall in the basement. But really what I took away from that is it sounds like y'all actually took time to
Mhm.
go through that discussion. It wasn't just happenstance. You walk in one day, there's a poster all of a sudden.
Mhm.
Just how did y'all navigate that together and make that an important aspect of what the company was doing, if you will?
It's not just carving out time, it's carving out space. And I think the co-founders, and they've instilled that in leaders thereafter, have really put that emphasis on it needs to be a central part of what we're doing. And it is important to take that step back and really to use that as a lens for everything else that we do. I was thinking a lot about this in the last week. One of the things I find myself thinking about more and more is, am I asking the right question? And,
Interesting.
from an operations standpoint, I think it can very easily get super tactical. And that's, there's a place for that, certainly. But you can make yourself very busy trying to map something out or solve for something that maybe isn't what you should be doing to begin with. And that emphasis on culture, I think, has been that thing for us that has always made sure that we are being deliberate about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and tying it back to the excitement that we have for the work we're doing, the approach that we want to take, and why we sincerely believe that it is what's going to be most beneficial for our clients and how we go about carrying that out. And so, as far as what that looks like, we've done everything from being very intentional about getting offsite for different things. And so whether that's, you know, taking an afternoon to go do something fun. We've had some of our meetings even in just like library conference rooms. It's not anything necessarily fancy. That's actually one of our favorite things. We were talking about our next leadership meeting and how we're all excited that that's what we are going to go do, is spend the day at one of the libraries getting to talk through some of our goals for the
I
next
love that.
quarter. And it's something that we get excited about. We make sure is a priority. Our previous office space had actually access to uh, basketball courts, and so we
Well,
did a lot.
take a moment. Tell our audience
Yep.
exactly where was your previous office space, because I don't think people really appreciate how unique this was.
We were in the Kemper, now the Hy-Vee Arena, and so
Yeah,
we
down in the
had
bottoms, the West Bottoms, right?
yes, in the
Yeah,
West Bottoms,
yeah.
and we had a few different spots within the arena over the course of our time there. And, it really allowed the opportunity to go have a conversation while shooting hoops or
Yeah.
play a lot of pickup basketball as a team, which we really enjoyed. And now we unfortunately don't yet have a basketball court in our current office space, but we're figuring out what those other things are. And so just a few weeks ago, we realized that there was a park within walking distance that has soccer nets and picnic tables. And so we made our way there one afternoon when the weather started getting a little bit nicer. And so, kudos to, like I said, our co-founders and continuing to really drive that for us and instilling that in the leadership team overall. And I think that really also disseminates down to everyone on the team, really putting that focus and importance on, we are here for many reasons. We are motivated and excited about the things we're doing, but we are also really motivated and excited about this team that we have and this culture that we're working on building together.
Yeah, that's really cool. And as I visited with some other people who are with SparkChange, and they had told me, described to me the office setting at the Kemper Arena. I was like, oh, that is phenomenal. Now I'm sure, right, there were probably some downsides to it, whatnot, but it just
Mhm.
feels like one big playground, which is great, and a super unique and cool space to be a part of, which I know y'all have moved. You're in in a new building, a new location. It also is cool.
Mhm.
It's got some unique aspects to it. But what a great part of your story. When you transitioned from Big Co, if you will,
Mhm.
to into SparkChange. So I think, as you said, you were number 5 for co-founders, and then you joined them there in the basement. Um, Over the last 6 years, your role has changed. It has evolved. I believe, I think generally your title when you started was chief delivery, although I think you could probably say we're doing everything, right? There's no one specific role and form function, and all the way to now you're COO, chief operations officer. What has been some of the harder things about that evolution? What has either surprised you or just been more difficult than you expected as both the company has grown, as you've grown, as your role has grown over the last 6 years?
Uh-huh. One of them, I think it's something we all struggle with, but it is very easy to have that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
What am I
Yeah.
doing
Hey,
here?
I've
There are
got
so
it. I
many
agree.
people who are infinitely
Yeah.
more qualified to do this, to be in these shoes. And that's something that realistically continue to work through, but I appreciate that we have a very supportive leadership team, very supportive team in general that really does come together. And we have a wealth of experience, and so I am continuing to learn every day, but I do feel very supported in that. And I also really think that we are challenged, whether we are a little bit newer to career and we've had kind of that role evolution like I have, or we are coming in with a wealth of experience. We are all holding each other accountable. We are all asking the difficult questions about, you know, does this really make sense for us? Is this what we should go do? Is this how we should go do it? Um, and it has made us better, and it has made our team better. And so while still tons to learn, and for me, that's actually really exciting. I love the
Yeah.
learning aspect, and love that I never get bored. There's no day where I feel like, okay, I've come in and I have done all the things that I know exactly how to do. And, I can check the boxes on the very repetitive and comfortable nature of my work. That's not for me. And so part of the reason I have loved the evolution is said from the beginning, coming to SparkChange, that I wanted to be someone who could be relied on. I wanted to be a go-to. I wanted to be able to jump in. I knew coming into a startup that roles wouldn't be super defined. I knew that there would be need to do things kind of across the board to make sure our team had what we needed, to make sure our clients had what we needed. And I've really continued with that mentality and continued to feel a lot of excitement and energy when I get thrown into different things, and can leverage my love of learning, can leverage that energy for tackling different things. And so that really has not changed. That has kind of continued throughout the journey. I'd like to think there's still a whole lot of hands-on doing, nature of the team being the size that it is. We are all still very engaged on a day-to-day, and love that piece of it as
Yeah.
well. And then I mentioned earlier kind of this idea of having been there from or been here, I should say, from so early on, really having that tie to the mission, the vision, the culture. That is something that I've really tried to weave into every role that I've played, and I have used to kind of solidify that ground when I have felt the more difficult moments, to realize, here is why I am at the table, here is what I bring, and here is what is incredibly important for us as we continue to grow, that we don't lose sight of who we are and why we're here. And the culture piece in particular, of course, it's evolved, but it's so easy to lose some of that core as you grow and you go tackle different
Yeah.
things. And so, um, really have tried to continue to make sure that that's something that I'm bringing as accountability, but also making sure that it's a piece for our team as a whole.
Yeah, I have to imagine, Kristel, that it is also difficult. And I keep using this transition point, but you're in a big company and you have a role, and then you may be a part of a small team, but you have kind of a defined role. And so you move from that to a startup, and as you said, you're employee number 5, and have grown substantially over the last 6 years, but you're employee number 5. So regardless of what your title is, you're really doing everything. It's anything under the sun that needs to be done just to survive and thrive. But as you continue to be successful, not just you personally, but the company, more people come in, teams get bigger, and I imagine part of the journey is you go from I'm doing everything under the sun to now I need to delegate, or I can't be touching everything. And so it's more so how am I influencing or leading? And look, I'll be honest, that's probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to navigate is giving up control, if you will. I mean, did you have that experience, if you was, as both SparkChange and then your role continued to grow in the organization?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And hindsight is always 2020. And so certainly I can see it vividly in different moments over the years. Someone on a previous episode used the analogy of flying at the right elevation. And I love that so much because it is something that is a challenge on a day-to-day basis. And it's also such an opportunity, not just for me to go discover new things that I can learn and new ways that I can use my skill set, but also to give that same opportunity to the team and to allow passion and capability to grow in the others that we've brought on and to see that come to fruition. And so um, it is still difficult. There are some things that, you really hold on to, like, we started it this way, or we've always done it this way. But one of the truly exciting things about the team growing is that we have been able to bring in expertise in different areas that we didn't, when we were a smaller team, it didn't make sense. We didn't have the scale, whatever the case may be. And so there really has been a need to see, those people come and do their thing and make us better. And uh, as much as possible, try to stay out of the way of that happening.
Yeah, no, I can certainly appreciate that. And I think everyone in our audience can probably identify, you've been in some position where you've done something and now you've got to let it go. I mean, I think it's a human condition. It's a hard thing to do, and some of us are fortunate. I say that somewhat flippantly, to be put in positions to have to learn
Mhm.
how to grow, to let go, to trust others, and then more so influence versus do the day to day. So you've got a big job at SparkChange. SparkChange is doing amazing things. You're impacting healthcare. You're helping health systems get paid faster, get paid easier, et cetera, et cetera. But oh, by the way, these are my words, not yours. You're a fairly prolific writer. Like I would say to our audience, I read your stuff every single week that you're posting out on LinkedIn. And the general flavor that I see is it's a lot of inspiration. It's how are you thinking about you spend your time, how you find balance, etc. Um, I probably start with the most obvious. How do you find the time? And just maybe talk about to our audience, what why do you do that? What does that give you? Is it cathartic? Is it time for you just kind of to distill down your thoughts? What's that process look like?
I've always loved writing, reading and writing both. And so it is both, I would say, cathartic and also just a source of joy. And so
Yeah,
finding a balance, weaving that into the work that I'm doing and the culture and the growth aspects of what we are doing at SparkChange is something that has been a little bit of a passion project of mine. And so, from a SparkChange perspective, we spend a lot of time thinking about how we can use creativity, how we can use capability to go make things better. And I think that is the case in day-to-day life as well. And so I do like to take that step back and think through, what am I doing? What am I learning? How can I challenge myself? How can I, take that mindset of things are good and there are so many opportunities that are before me. And even, on some of the days that are a little bit tougher, what are the positive pieces of that, and how can I use that to go figure out what's next? The other piece is I am a mom to 6 kids, and so a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of
it's a small part of your life. Just it's over here.
yeah,
So
just
super easy.
yeah, wife and mom to 6 is a huge part of
Yeah.
my life. Obviously, incredibly important piece. And talk about a lens to give you this mindset that if you're going to do something, it better be something that is worthwhile, and it better be something that you appreciate, because it's that constant balance or integration of all of those pieces of my work that I'm super passionate about, but really into my family, which obviously is the foundation for everything. And writing is, I think, a way that I kind of work through some of those connections and, I don't know, really try to be intentional about what am I doing from a career standpoint? Why is it important? Am I, focusing on things for the right reasons, and hopefully using that as an opportunity for my kids to see joy and energy and passion in learning and in going to do things that I really do think are creating value and helping others. And what does that experience look like?
Yeah, I can certainly appreciate um, the time spent there. And like I said, uh, I read quite a bit that you write. I find it helpful. There was one that you talked about where you wrote and talked about finding a rhythm and what is your rhythm, and not to trivialize the fact that you've got big buckets of things in your life. SparkChange, you've got a big job there. SparkChange is growing, building. You're a mother, you have 6 kids, you have a spouse, you have other things outside of even those things that give you joy, that you pour your time into, and thinking about how you balance. And actually, I always hesitate to say balance because I think that's a bit,
Me too.
yeah, but more so how you find the right rhythm to
Hmm.
put the things in the places where they make the most sense.
Hmm.
And they don't work in conflict with one another. So I would say to our audience, go find her on LinkedIn, follow her, connect with her. You will find value in the things that she's writing about. So take the chance, super easy. You'll benefit from it. By the way, I am an avid LinkedIn person. No
Hmm.
shame in that. I did see in your tagline, so I have to ask, what, why do people call you Kristel Jet GPT, or GPT? What does that mean?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm such a learning nerd. I mentioned that earlier. So these AI chatbots are something that are so exciting for me. I use them from everything for like meal planning to, event themes to
Yeah.
obviously, actual important kind of more intellectual type research, but it's been something that I have just gravitated toward and feel so lucky on a daily basis to have all of this information at my fingertips. It is amazing. But the nickname Kristel GPT actually came from some of my teammates at SparkChange My background's in communication. So I did my bachelor's and master's in communication. I've always been super passionate about messaging. You know, you mentioned writing, like all of those things have always been super near and dear to my heart. And so people have always kind of said that I've had this talent for wordsmithing or taking ideas and, you know, kind of distilling them down in a way that resonates. And even from my early days at Cerner, I was getting pulled into different ways to put that to use, whether it was, you know, peers having me look through things or managers, you know, having me weigh in, to even executives kind of being pulled in to help put together messaging for different campaigns that were happening. And so I've, you know, always really enjoyed that aspect of things. And it's something that people around me have generally recognized. But now they've started calling it Kristel GPTing things, or
Okay.
they will, you know, jokingly say that they need to consult Kristel GPT, which it's amusing and I obviously get a lot of joy from it, but it also really underscores that importance of communication. And for me, that is so meaningful.
Yeah, well, one, I love the nickname. I think that's super awesome. And talk about a compliment. To it just it's a really cool thing. And yeah, that your emphasis on communication certainly resonates with me. I had a leader. A lady by the name of Julie Hall. You may or may not have known her. She was a longtime Cerner person, very influential on my career, not just the development of my career, but more so how I thought about myself as a leader. And quite frankly, how I changed how I thought about myself because of seeing how she modeled leadership. But one of the things that she reinforced during the time that I had the chance to work with her is that you cannot over communicate something. You may think you're over communicating, but you're not. And she would give some specific examples. Hey, Doug, I know you've gone out and said this to people. They don't remember it. And now you are not getting the outcome that you think you're getting. And so you're falling short. And I need you to do more. I don't need you to not to do something different. I just need you to communicate more. I need you to, 7 times 7, what, however you want to think about it. So that certainly jumps out to me without a doubt. So 6 years, 7 years, SparkChange has been in existence, largely, as I understand, bootstrapped, meaning that you have, and I say you collectively, you, the founding team, the team that's there, you have built this business off of the back of the collective investment of the organization and then the client base. That may or may not change as you continue to grow, but just talk about a phenomenal success story, not just in the industry, but here in Kansas City. What do you see for 2025? What's on the horizon? Anything you want to share with our audience that's on the horizon that you're excited about for SparkChange as you look through the next 8 months that we've got ahead of us or so in this year?
Yeah, there's so much going on that we are excited about. And the common theme I find myself reflecting on what we're doing and what ties it together is really learning from our clients and learning from the people who come and join our team and using that as really that firepower to go figure out how to better serve our clients. And so on the client feedback side, data has been a consistent theme and need, an area where clients have really responded to what we have done. And so we always had this emphasis of data driven automation, right? How can we go identify the disruptions, identify different impacts that we can go solve through automation? And from the get go, clients were asking us, how are you getting this data? Can you show it to us in this way? Can you get us more data? We've been asking for this. This has been such a pain point. And if we could have more of this, we would be in such a better position to make business decisions. And so we have expanded on what we are able to do there. And so lots more coming on that front, and getting to have the conversation with clients, being able to show them what we have, get their feedback to make it better, has been so incredible, and continues to really be, as we're continuing to develop our capabilities, that process that moves us forward. And then from those joining our team, and how we are able to use that to continue to expand what we're doing. Strategic consulting is something that we are super excited about having even more capabilities on our team than we ever have before. And more importantly, weaving that into everything else that we do. So how can we come in and work closely with an operations team to understand pain points and gaps there, and help create better processes, better workflows, better documentation. But then also, how do we tie in things like our data and our automations to go, create efficiencies, reduce areas that have historically, only had maybe one type of solution that's tied to, having a person go perform a specific action. And so tying all of those things together, and hopefully you hear me getting excited, but man, from what our clients are bringing to us and our team, it, there's it, there's so much there.
That's awesome. Well, and part of what I love about how you were describing this is that it's a bi-directional journey. At least that's what I'm taking from your comments, which is you, SparkChange, y'all have these insights, these ideas of where where the company can go, but you're getting such tangible feedback from your clients, which is really a testament to the fact that they're getting value from what you're doing, that they now want to be part of the journey. They want to see you grow, continue to get better. And so they're giving you this feedback. And so it's this very symbiotic relationship that is advancing both organizations, that is just super, super powerful. So given, right, you've been growing, you are growing, you've got a big year ahead of you. Is SparkChange hiring? Do y'all, what type of roles would y'all be looking for as you continue to grow? A podcaster, perhaps? I don't know.
Yes, we are still hiring. We are continue to hire. I expect that is going to be a pretty consistent theme. Definitely technical resources. We love some great engineers who are willing to take that, aptitude to go use technology to solve a problem. But um, I always say we're really lucky, because we have been able to find a group of engineers who not only excel and enjoy that piece, but also are willing to have those great conversations with our clients and understand kind of really that front end to back end interaction. And none of that work is happening in a vacuum, so that we really, at the end of the day, have that close relationship between the technology, but also how it's going to be impacting the end users who are going to be seeing the results of the work that we are doing. More operational type roles than we ever have before. Inevitably, as we're continuing to get bigger, the business needs different, unique skill sets to take on things that we, you know, have been able to manage before. And then from a client relationship perspective, there are some different things there. But we have hopefully a lot of exciting projects moving forward. And we've always put an emphasis on being able to work closely with those resources from a client perspective who are trusting in the work that we're doing. And so want to make sure that we have great talent aligned to that as well.
That's awesome. Well, I would encourage, if you're thinking about a change, if you're interested in impacting healthcare, and specifically around how healthcare, our providers, our health systems they get paid appropriately, quickly, and in the best way possible. Go check out SparkChange website. Shout out Kristel on LinkedIn. I'm sure she would appreciate a DM. Those are great avenues to go after. As we bring this to a close, we typically have a little bit of a surprise question. I've got a twofer, kind of I won't say big and small, but different. So the first one, which you probably have heard is you've listened to some of these episodes, but if you're going either with a group or just for lunch, what have you, to get barbecue, where are you going? What's the first place that comes to mind that you're going to go get barbecue?
Our team does barbecue together, and it has historically been Original Joe's KC.
Yeah.
Or Slaps.
So I've still never been to Slaps. I've got to solve this problem. I need to go to Slaps. I love the name.
It's a great team lunch. It is
fantastic.
Outside, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I feel like I've hit most barbecue places in the metro. Slaps is one I've not had the chance to go to yet. So I got to get on that. So here's the second part. So probably a little more, if I won't say personal, but smaller, more intimate. If you're going to meet someone for coffee, where do you go meet someone for coffee? What's your coffee place?
McLean's in Shawnee.
Oh, okay. All right.
Is the spot that everything from whether it's work type meetup or a lot of my friends will meet there on a Saturday morning, maybe before some of the kids are up or while they're at least, happy to watch
moving relatively slowly. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. Have a little bit of quiet time and connection.
That's awesome. Well, shout out to McLean's. That's fantastic. Kristel, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for making the time, for spending it with us here on the pod. Yeah. Once again, I just have to give a shout out to the work that you're doing, the work that SparkChange is doing. It is a phenomenal story here in Kansas City, impacting healthcare all around the country. Really, really cool stuff. So thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you for listening. We are excited to bring new episodes out each week. We are incredibly grateful to our guests and our listeners. Let us know what you think by commenting on the episodes. We are proudly sponsored by the upper right corner, which provides advice on strategic growth, including growth assessments and strategy, go-to-network planning, sales leadership and team coaching, and fractional leadership roles. For more, visit theupperrightcorner.com. Waypoint Healthcare Solutions is also proud to sponsor the Counterweight podcast. Waypoint HCS is a focused consulting organization helping health systems, providers, and organizations to develop and implement patient engagement strategies. Waypoint HCS provides strategic consulting and patient engagement technology guidance and selection. Waypoint also helps support implementation and ongoing program management. For more, visit Waypoint HCS's LinkedIn page or waypointhcs.com. Thank you to our guests and our listeners. As always, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Subscribe, like, and follow, and we look forward to joining you again next Wednesday for another episode of The Counterweight.